All right, so I'm going to assume that the live blinking light means we're on stage and we're ready to roll. So it's our pleasure to be here today at this phenomenal. My name is Lynette Kiowski. I'm the managing partner for REACH Canada, the Canadian expansion program for the REACH Growth Accelerator, which we're going to get into a little bit more later. But first, I want to welcome Dave Garland, the managing partner for Second Century Ventures, and Valentina Shagoyan, the managing partner for REACH UK. So welcome, Dave and Valentina.
Here.
Thank you.
Before we get started, I would just love for each of you to tell us a little bit more about yourselves and the programs that you're running. Dave,
sure.
Why don't you lead us off?
Absolutely. Thanks, Lynette. And the managing partner of Century Ventures, and I live and work in the San Francisco Bay Area. A little bit before I get into my background, I do want to do a quick shout out to the CRE Tech team for continuing to put on these conferences in this environment. It's an absolute labor of love, I know, and it's incredible what you have put together. The industry needs events like this now more than ever before, so thank you. A little bit about me. I'm a real estate lifer. I've been a practitioner in the industry my entire adult career, first getting a taste of this space by trading mobile home parks in the commercial space in the early 2000s. And since then, I've been an active land developer across asset classes and have owned and operated properties in most of the states in the US as part of a private equity fund that I co-founded in 2009. And I joined Second Century Ventures and NAR in 2016. And with my partners, Tyler Thompson and Mark Birschbach, we really decided to try to expand the investment activities globally to really find the best technologies to reinforce that real estate practitioners are essential to the transaction for the benefit of consumers, both in the residential space as well as the commercial space.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Valentina.
Thank you, Lynette, and hello, everyone. First of all, would like to join Dave in saying thank you to the CRE Tech team. It's an awesome event. A lot of great speakers have been on this since the morning, and yeah, totally appreciate the effort, very much needed at that time. Now moving on to introducing myself, I'm heading up REACH UK. I'm just like Dave in real estate for the whole of my career. I started 15 years ago in real estate development. Moved to real estate investment management in a private equity format, so direct real estate investing, and then spent a number of years in real estate investment banking, switching to real estate tech about 2 years ago. Just to give an example, like we keep saying that real estate is lagging behind on technology adoption, but at the same time, just reflecting on my career, I think we've got to give real estate some credit. So 15 years ago, I still remember myself working as a head of marketing department for a real estate development company, preparing a best use analysis for a land plot that that company used to own. And I was tasked to get to know all the competitors and what the competitors are charging for office space within this area. And 15 years ago, me and my team literally had to go and knock the doors of real estate buildings that were around this particular land plot and ask the person at the door whether there are any vacant space in that building, how much they charge per square meter, what their indexation was included into this charge. So imagine now 15 years fast forward today, of course, a lot has been done, not only property portals, solving a lot of issues that used to be very much manual work 15 years ago, but now we've also got quite some data on. So just wanted to get us started on some positive note about technology and just me thinking about my career, 15 years in real estate. So we are off to the good start in real estate.
That's awesome. Well, thank you both so much for that. And I guess I should just say a little bit about myself. So I've been in the real estate sector as an association executive in North America for about the past 10, 12 years. And just kind of knocking on to Dave's experience a little bit, what has me so excited about the opportunity that SCV and REACH are bringing to the marketplace is just the ability to really connect the dots between the practitioner and the great tools that are out there to really help them excel in what they do and continue to add value to that real estate transaction. And joining the Reach team with the global expansion, which we'll talk about in a second, just puts that a little bit on steroids in terms of how I view the ability to really participate in the technology environment, particularly in commercial real estate. So very excited to be here. So before we move on too far, I think likely prudent that we address sort of the elephant in the room. And to Dave's earlier comments or opening comments around, extending kudos to the CRETEC team for continuing to hold such an important event during these unprecedented times. We really are in this sort of weird landscape where we're social distancing, and if I just lean a little bit on my experience. So as we're rolling out the program here in Canada, one of the questions that I continually field from folks that aren't really in the space is, well, do people really want technology right now? And is anybody really investing? And our experience has been that, it's because of the situation that we are in kind of globally, where people are not just only more excited about it, they actually feel that this is a bit of an extension of that human experience to need to adopt technology more so now than before, or at a faster rate than before because of, sort of the environment that's going on. But Dave, Valentina, I'd love to hear a little bit of your perspective in terms of what you're seeing in the ecosystem in your respective areas. Dave, I know you're in the Bay Area in the US. Valentina, you're in the UK. So I'd love to know sort of what that dynamic is with COVID and technology and the stuff that you folks are doing in your respective regions. Dave, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. It's a question that we hear a lot. And from the venture perspective and from SCV's perspective in general, we're a little bit different than a traditional venture capital organization in that our limited partner is the largest trade association in the world. So our responsibility, we feel, is to the industry as a whole, to really enhance the well-being of practitioners and participants and to help shape the future of real estate. So our main goal during this COVID period, be a helper to our portfolio companies. We have over 100 portfolio companies. We feel that we have a very strong obligation to assist them and to provide them as much help and support as possible, as their technologies and services are really the critical tools for practitioners, not just here in the US, but around the globe. But on a more human level, look, this pandemic has created a host of health issues. And unfortunately, many people are feeling more isolated. They've lost their jobs. They're confronted with sickness or relationship issues. And the level of social trauma is real. So the ability for us to be a helper, not only for our existing portfolio companies, but also for our companies that we bring in to our Reach program, we really feel this sense of responsibility to help them understand what is going on deeply within the market by leveraging a lot of the resources that we have at NAR. I think what we're witnessing real time, not just here in the US, but around the world, is that this idea of place. The idea of place is transforming before our eyes, how we work, where we work, what we're doing day in and day out. And it's a pretty profound phenomenon that's going to have a lot of short-term and long-term impacts on not only the psychology of us as humans, but also specifically in the real estate segment and more specifically the commercial real estate segments.
Is it just me, but I can't hear you, Renat?
Pardon me, this is a bump of the microphone. So thank you, Dave. As I was saying, Valentina, I'd love to know from the UK perspective, sort of what you're seeing, and on the back of Dave's comments relative to, this being a much more human aspect. Are you having the same experience in the UK? And I'd love to know a little bit about what the environment is like there.
Sure, Lena, thank you. Trends in the UK are in Proptech in general and now post-COVID are largely similar, but with some nuances, of course, and market specifics. So it's been already mentioned a number of times, and we I think all share the view that COVID, if anything, has only accelerated trends that were already in motion. And then when it comes to technology and tech adoption within real estate, I think the demand for technology and property is similar around the globe. So companies are hungry for solutions around data. And when I talk about data, I mean both data around property and data around end customer as well. And then solutions that build on top of that around data analytics that help with data that is gathered, data interpretation. That I think has not been really impacted by COVID much. So this trend was already there, and exciting solutions are coming online. Now, another set of solutions that people, the real estate industry is hungry for is anything to do with the need of increased efficiency. And that talks about building efficiency and all trends around energy, sustainability, and then also work efficiency. So how do we get more efficient in what we do, efficient and effective? And that goes all the way down tenant engagement, tenant communication, remote working solutions, anything to do when it comes to real brokerages with remote viewing, remote property inspections. So that sort of market has received an enormous boost in the current times. And not the least, when it comes to large asset owners, property asset managers, we are talking about solutions that help with remote property management, what is called now on-demand facility and property management. So this kind of trend, I think we share around the globe. When it comes to specifics of the UK and EU versus, let's say, US and Canada, where you guys sit, it's to do with scalability of startups. So when it comes to scalability within UK, it's sometimes easier for a startup to go all the way down to the US rather than to scale in Europe, because Europe has just been so fragmented. And then another trend where I can see that it's a clear difference is their availability of capital. US is, of course, by far more rich on capital when it comes to venture funding, or especially with the emergence of funds that are specifically tailored to property technology. Good news there is, of course, many of those funds, to access those funds, it's often not necessarily needed to go all the way to the US. Some of the funds that are most forward-looking, they actually come to the UK and establish their presence. So that's this trend Second Century Ventures, I believe, has followed as well. And another important area why Proptech needs globalization, in fact, is this trend comes from the demand side, from the industry side. There are a number of real estate global companies that are global by nature, and they demand solutions that are easily scalable across their portfolio globally. So there were already speakers in this conference from PGIM, Nuveen. So all those guys, I can sense they look for tech solutions that would help their portfolios across the globe, and that all goes to do with efficiency, tenant engagement, asset management, portfolio management. So this kind of trends are both local and global.
Excellent, great, thanks, Valentina. So I feel like we've teased the audience a little bit on, you know, what Reach is and the fact that Reach is global. Dave, really quickly, can you just give us sort of that, you know, background around why Second Century felt it important to expand the Reach brand that has already been really successful in the US over the last 8 or 9 years, what the impetus was behind, you know, expanding that brand globally, what the objectives were, and then let's talk a little bit about what makes this program really unique. Sure.
So at Second Century Ventures, we like to invest in companies that have a track record. So think A, B, and C round type companies where we can be a strategic partner to enhance the growth of the organizations, in addition to really being a source of capital. But for companies that are growing or relatively new to the industry or to our market, we like to invest through our Reach Scale-Up program. And that's largely the differential between Second Century Ventures and Reach, which is really a program and investment vehicle that helps provide access, exposure, education, and capital. And as you mentioned, we've been doing it for a while, and we're very active in the community. Since March this year, we've invested in over 17 companies. We review and speak with over 1,000 companies per year. And really what we're seeing historically is that the challenges being solved are ranging from everything from friction in the real estate transaction to personal safety of the practitioner and everything in between, including gross inefficiencies, lax data systems, insurance issues, issues that touch on financial technology systems, et cetera. And many of these challenges and markets have a lot of similarities across borders. And many of our companies expressed over time a high degree of interest in exploring different markets. And so along the way, we found that there were many of these well-heeled companies that were ready to go beyond the US. But before we found that, there were a string of companies that were really pinging us right around 2016, 2017 to enter the US market that had already experienced a considerable amount of traction in their home markets. One of our first cases was Immoviewer out of Germany. They were doing a tremendous job in the industrial real estate segment in their markets, and they were looking to expand in the US. They had just built a team. They were starting to get some initial traction, and that was an ideal applicant for the REACH class of 2017. And then it just blossomed from there. We started finding that companies had real interest in entering the US market with unique technologies, solving problems a unique way that weren't really touched upon before by many US organizations. So it was a little bit of happenstance, but really what we found over time was, the problems that we have in the US are oftentimes quite universal. And also for companies within our portfolio to continue to achieve massive growth, there's a couple of strategies that organizations deploy. So for instance, you can evolve your product offering to an existing market. You could continue to grow market share or try to penetrate that market by pivoting your marketing or product offerings. But the reality is that one of the most interesting ways that organizations can expand is by looking at opportunities across geographies. The key challenge to that for most organizations is that they don't necessarily have the resources, the knowledge, or the capital available to invest the time and energy to explore whether or not that market has the ability to accept their product or service. So really what REACH is doing at a global level is we're providing that service to our portfolio companies and to other organizations that come into the REACH ecosystem by offering these pads to quickly evaluate market expansion opportunities when organizations are ready.
I love that. One of the experiences that we're having as we are accepting applications right now for the REACH Canada program is, expression of interest from companies that are outside of Canada to join the Canadian program. And so one of the questions, Dave, you and I asked early on is there room for a program in Canada? Is it too close? Is it too close in proximity to the US, and why not just join the US program? And the interesting thing is, you mentioned kind of these pads, these launch pads. It's exactly what companies are kind of looking at the Canadian market for, the Canadian program for, is, a bit of a launch pad, not just to help propel them into the Canadian market, which I would argue has lagged in terms of technology adoption in real estate, particularly in commercial real estate. But it's also a bit of a soft landing place for companies that want to enter that larger US market, to assimilate them into the North American paradigm. There are a lot of similarities between US and Canada. So we've been seeing, sort of everything across the spectrum in terms of companies wanting to participate with the REACH brand to be able to access, markets globally as well. So Valentina, I'd love to know, from the UK experience, I know that you guys are shortly going to be opening your applications. And we're really excited about that because we've had conversations with a few companies that are excited about entering the UK market. I'd like to know a little bit about how the approach or I'd like for you to share with us a little bit about the approach that REACH takes in terms of delivering, the components of the program to help these companies really scale and grow wherever they are, whichever program they're participating in globally.
Sure, Lynette. Yeah, absolutely. And here I wanted to maybe structure it a little bit around another trend that I can see in the interaction between innovations and real estate industry as a whole. I can see that, being a real estate practitioner myself for all these years, I have to admit that this industry is being innovated from the outside, not from the inside. So for whatever reason, that's just a matter of fact. And that's where I see the importance of direct connectivity to the world of practitioners, and that our program, and generally speaking, it's important to deliver to the startups that are coming from, like the entrepreneurs are coming from fintech background, applying technologies and tools that worked in fintech to real estate, and they need that kind of door to enter the industry. So that's an interesting trend, and that's where I think the connector like us is really relevant. So the way we built it is, first of all, by relying on the NAR as an association and more than 100 bilateral partners of NAR globally. So that's their practitioner world that we look to deliver their technology solution that we believe is the best and greatest out of all, and would serve the real estate practitioner needs best. And that's probably why we are coming, all of us, I can see that we are running the programs from different geographies, but all of us are coming from their industry rather than elsewhere, with the connectivity that we have to share personally. And that's also not the least because real estate is people's business. So it's a relationship business, wrongly or rightly. Again, that's just another piece of, another fact of life. Just answering your direct question, when it comes to the UK, at Reach UK, we built the program to kick off the application process at the end of this month. So it is quite timely. We will be starting accepting applications on the 31st of July. There are a lot of exciting startups, and another statistics that I love sharing is the fact that the UK seems to be the most innovative country in the world. We have the largest concentration of startups and entrepreneurs in property technology per capita, and we screen really well against US or Asia, or any country in Asia like China, although we do have Australian program as well. So that's where the global nature of program helps. And another thing which we do deliver, we actually connect the dots among all the speaking, the major English speaking countries in the world. So again, due to the time zone difference, our Australian colleague is not on, but that's where I also think that we can provide great tools and solutions where we help introducing technology to large asset managers who I spoke about earlier, who are actually present across the globe. And that is what's important to
absolutely. And I really love how you highlighted really that all of us are here because of our desire to really help the practitioner, the real estate practitioner, and really that industry through what we're doing on a technology piece. So just really quickly, Dave, if you're a company that's expanding globally or has aspirations to expand globally, how do you do that? How do you go about that? What do you need to do as a tech company to set yourself up for success?
That's that's a big question, and it comes down to the specific path that the company has and the goals that they want to try to hone in on for their respective growth. And really, what we're trying to do within the Reach process is understand the relationship between a product or service and the relative product market fit, or the availability for there to be a product market fit for a given organization, services, or products. And really, we know that the lack of product market fit is the #1 reason why startups fail. Because they run out of capital because they haven't been able to achieve that product market fit. And that oftentimes stems from the lack of understanding of what the specific demands of a customer may be, in addition to a number of other relative factors. But so when we're looking at evaluating an investment from this perspective, we really rely on our practitioners in the market to help us understand the nuances of product market fit. And I think that organizations looking to expand globally can probably take that particular tip to heart, because the more you understand a given marketplace, in addition to the nuances of how a practitioner behaves in a given market, then you can assess whether or not you either have product market fit today or what you're going to have to do within your organization to help establish that. So there's other tactics that an organization can leverage to try to determine the fit within a market. There's a lot of product testing that can come into play. There's the ability to grab mentors or experienced operators in a given organization or in a given country in order to determine whether or not there could be a fit. And again, these are all things that we would offer from the reach perspective. But you know, if I were looking to expand in a certain geography, I would really want to know the dynamics of that market and understand whether or not the questions that have been met in my existing market are the same type of questions that are challenges in the market that I want to expand into. The world's a big place, and yes, there's a lot of commonalities across across real estate and jurisdictions, but the reality is that it's the nuances that matter, and the competitive nature of those nuances need to be assessed. And if you don't understand that, you can burn through a lot of capital very quickly, and that's really the problem that again we're trying to solve for as part of our thesis within the reach ecosystem.
Awesome. So we just have a couple of minutes left. I have, one more question, and then would love to leave off with some closing thoughts. So question, I know that there are a lot of practitioners that are participating in this conference, likely live watching this presentation now, mostly in the commercial sector. So if you're one of those people, if you're an operator of multi-classes of property that says, look, I really need to evolve or ingest more technology. How do I get involved? How can I participate? How can I determine what technology is really going to help me through this period of time and beyond? What can you do? How can you participate? Valentina.
Absolutely, I can probably take this one. So we encourage real estate industry to engage with platforms like ours or with entrepreneurs directly through two potential channels, and that depends on how much hands-on versus hands-off approach you would want to take. So it can be either direct mentorship on the program like ours or directly for a startup. It doesn't really matter, but that helps. This two-way, it's like a two-way street. So as a mentor, you can listen to their ideas that entrepreneur brings from the outside world and share your thoughts or provide guidance how that can be shaped up. And then ultimately, I've seen some practitioners jumping on advisory board of those startups and just become even more hands-on and just sort of being more aware of what it increases your awareness. And the second approach is a little bit more hands-off. So that's when you join. When it comes to our format, we run so-called inside panels. So that's when you are signing up to receive an inbound with all the pre-selected pitches of startups that we believe are most suited to your businesses, and then have an ability to provide offline some feedback to the startup. Startup receives it, so arguably less time spent on this sort of activity, but to the same serving same purpose, increasing awareness. So those are the two sort of formats that.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'd also quickly add, it's leverage this time of social distancing and forums like this to reach out and meet as many of these companies as possible if you're a practitioner, especially at this CRT Tech session. There's a lot of organizations, wonderful organizations in the virtual exhibitor area. Highly encourage you to go and meet with them.
And other demos that are being provided throughout the conference, I know, by a lot of technology. So apprise yourselves of everything that CRETech is making available on this platform. Connect with the people in the networking pieces. One of the things that I love about this ecosystem is the community of experts that we have been able to sort of build globally between the Australian program, the UK program, the commercial specific program in the US. And I know a number of those companies are participating in this event as well. So apprise yourselves and introduce yourselves to them. Because technology really is, you know, this globalization of technology, I don't think is a new thing. I think it's really been escalated and elevated during this period of time, which is a good thing for the industry as we evolve through COVID and beyond. So Dave, Valentina, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you everyone else for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of the event, and we'll look forward to seeing you in person sometime soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.